Now I'm going to tell you a hardcore story about how I was circumcised. First of all, let's take a look at the meaning of circumcision. Circumcision is the excision of the skin of the foreskin, which covers the head of the penis from the outside. Every 5th man in the world has been circumcised, including me. In every nation, circumcision is performed for different reasons. This may be due to medical, traditional, or religious considerations. I was born and raised in Central Asia, so that's the common way for us to circumcise a boy aged 3-5 years, which is considered as a great celebration. And back in February 2004, when I was 5 years old, my parents decided that the time had come. At that age, I already had some idea about such a thing as circumcision. The doctor does something to you down there, and then your parents give you toys, and relatives give you money. Everything was going on as usual that day. I was playing soldiers when my dad came across to me, saying that they were getting me a big car today. After getting dressed, my parents and I went to a place unknown to me. There was a huge hospital with no signs of toy stores nearby. Even in the mind of the child, I began sensing that something was off. And when we entered the building, I saw other parents sitting with only boys, some with 2 children. Everyone was waiting for their turn in the operating room. Then the realization hit me that I was about to be circumcised. I began getting very worried when mom said she would buy me a big radio-controlled car and left. I was left with my dad only. When it was my turn, we entered the operating room. There were 3 people there, all wearing masks and surgical gowns. They laid me on the couch. Everything looked exactly the same as at the dentist appointment. They gave me a jar to smell and told me to take a couple of deep breaths, so I passed out quickly. The last thing I remember is my dad showing me thumbs up. What awaited me next was pure hell. When I was awake, my pants were down and I was lying in some huge hole. I felt a fizzing pain below my stomach. I glanced down and noticed my bandaged PP. When I sat down on the couch, I saw just a first picture from some horror movie. The hall was filled with couches that was filled with a bunch of boys lying and crying with their pants down. I saw how they carried the newly circumcised boys, and then they woke up and screamed like they were cut. There were about half a dozen children. Some of them were calmed down and led outside by the hand of their parents. Meanwhile, some were being carried in their arms like wounded heroes. I sat for like 10-15 minutes waiting for my dad, but the sounds of cries was so terrifying that I just couldn't stand the torture and put on my pants before rushing towards exit. I left the hospital and sat on the nearest bench waiting for Dad. Dad arrived by car with his close friend and we drove home. I was crying on all the bumps along the way because my pee-pee was very sore. Upon arrival home, they undressed me and put me in a basin with some kind of medicinal liquid. This was supposed to speed up the regeneration. I was wearing only a white tank top. After a while, my mother arrived and handed me the promised toy. Then the parents set the festive table. By evening, various guests started coming home. They were relatives and close friends of my parents. Each guest gave me money before sitting down at the table. And then my mother took the money from me. I also got my first bike that day. That's how my circumcision went. Share your own story in the comments. I will be glad to read it. Be my friend, be my cringe bro.